so you see the beautiful work here at House of Talent made by these guys. David, we want to dive into the last part of the show, which is about, understanding the local content. We're talking about, local content development in Uganda. Everybody's talking about it. The politicians are talking about it, but nobody actually really goes down to, the deep end dive into the local content. Nobody puts their mind to know how does it work. Nobody wants to talk to a carpenter to see how a carpenter is doing it. Do carpentry people make sense? We have many carpentry shops around, or workshops around, but we don't give them opportunity to produce something beautiful. We want to be able to live by example, to say this is built by Ugandans, this is built by the local people. When I go to the US or to Europe or to America or to the UK or to Asia, do it your way is the main thing. The skilling of people is done from that point, that I am able to build my furniture from home. I was talking to a friend of mine in Germany, and he said, man, I built every furniture in my house myself. He left Uganda, he had no skill at all. Our education didn't teach him that. And when he got there, he said it's more expensive to bring a carpenter to build something for you than when you build it for yourself. But they're willing to come and teach you how to do it, and then you can do it by yourself. That I found that very fascinating. So a lot of us are talking about local content development, but we don't know. We're talking about build Uganda, buy Uganda, build Uganda. But the quality of what we're talking about, the quality of the production we're producing, the products we're producing to give to people is not worth, it cannot compete with the international, or imported products coming into Uganda. What is your say in that regard, now that you have carved a niche in the market for you and your people, that we want to be people who bring out custom made? You have a crazy idea, bring the crazy idea to us, we will bring it to a reality.
Well, in my own point of view, and based on my experiences so far, in my time in woodwork, I think as Ugandans, we would be more, even right now, our pieces, the items, our ability to produce things, if we concentrate, is fascinating. It is something so great to see someone get out a stump of wood and then produce something extraordinary for you. You can do it while the person is sitting there. And that is very fascinating. So if we can produce this good with these little resources, then I think what we need is the push of resources. I'll take you to a part that is absurd, basically, about in woodwork. The prices of power tools for us, the tools we actually need to produce these high quality pieces of wood, of furniture is immense here. And when I have platforms where I engage with carpenters from different parts. I have a subscription from a woodworking site called America's Guild, Woodworkers of America's Guild. And when you look at these people talking about their drill press, their circular saws, table saws, routers, they talk about very little prices, even when converted into our own prices here. Someone buys a router saw at let's say 300,000. That is their price converted to ours. And here is a quality router so that is durable is supposed to be at least 1.5.
Yeah.
So that is really the greatest setback. Remember, carpentry is a very hard business to pitch, because it's always dependent on other people. It is easy for you to pitch a business if someone can easily understand it, but people don't understand the transition from wood to furniture. So it is hard to pitch, so you don't get people investing. And if you're willing to invest, then you may find yourself having capital to only buy 3 power tools, and they can't produce a piece of furniture. So I think that is our biggest challenge here. Otherwise, I've had a lot of foreigners coming in, even personally at my workshop, and then someone says, well, I didn't know we can have this kind of furniture here. This is so good. I've seen young men that have gone as far as following up on the background of the trees they are going to use for furniture. So someone will give you a furniture piece and tell you that one was made from a tree that was 50 years old. And you know, these people have methods of measuring these things, the
yes.
whites, and then they're going to prove it.
Yes.
It's 50 years old. And this is fascinating how someone is able to explain a piece of furniture in their house back to the tree and how old it was.
Yeah.
So this shows how our capability as Ugandan furniture creators, as young people. Actually, woodwork has been stormed by young people, and this is somehow a good thing, because you know how our brains work is. I would say personally, at my workshop, at our workshop, at Oracle Furniture, our oldest, our age gap is between 38 and 14. So we have people who are as young as 14 years, and our oldest person is 38. Okay. So you can see that we are between the range that is ready to risk, that is ready to experiment with new ideas, to think outside the box. And that gives us an edge. And this is what, as Ugandans, not only in carpentry, but in any other trade, we are supposed to embrace. If someone is willing to risk, and they are positively sure that their risk is going to produce something great, you need to trust them a bit. You need to give them a bit of a gap to experiment.
So in other words, you're saying that we must be able to allow people room to express themselves.
Exactly.
And when they have something new, we should be able to give them opportunity and a platform for them to, you know, express themselves and to do it. David, let's go straight to your workplace. Earlier on when we started the show, you were talking about how you guys started and the motivations, you know, and how you walked through in the first place. I want to just put a few pictures up to actually show you that these guys, you know, talk about things that they are doing. That's right there. Is that you and David? And that's the workshop, and now it all started.
Yeah, this is how we started.
Yes.
And actually this was our first big addition, the metal structure.
Yes.
After we started, we were in a tarpaulin, in a small tent, where when it rains we would cover ourselves with our working tools. Yes. Under the tarpaulin.
Okay, and yes, so is that the whole business creative idea starting there of the workshop itself?
Yes, now that is, we are creating our first structure of a house after hitting one big job, I think, and we are sitting down now. We have to begin looking at protecting our materials, but also creating something someone can look at.
Yeah. Okay. And so when you are sitting with your young people and you're all coming with ideas, were your business ideas written down, or was it just there in people's heads that you sit down there and, you know, jazz about these things and make it a reality, or you actually wrote a proper business plan and said this is how we're going to do it? Again, there you are.
Well, I think the business plan is something we've written way deep into the business.
Yes.
That's when we decided, oh, this could become something greater. At first we got into this whole idea as people seeking to earn a living. Young people who cannot steal, we cannot do any of these immoral things. We've been brought up in a way that it's not a choice for us. So we have one choice, is to sweat. And we had one person who had the audacity to know, who had gotten time to learn this. So he was like, yeah, he knew how to make these things. He didn't know any other thing.
That's all he knows.
He knew how to make these things.
So did he grow up in the Jesus' time, because Jesus was born a carpenter, or what happened?
Actually, he ran into, he took on apprenticeship.
Yeah.
We were younger. That is our elder brother.
Yeah.
Actually, we are a partnership of three brothers in the workshop, and each has a specific skill.
Okay.
But the biggest was the skilled man.
Okay.
So first of all, he comes in, we respect him, and we've seen some of his works. After learning, he did a few things for family members. The feedback was good. Okay. But now, it was now a new era coming in, online marketing, social media. So, but I told him, but we can get some few customers from online, I think. He said, well, if you can, I am here to work. Yes. I got him one. I remember my first online customer was a doctor from Novik. I posted a small, it was was it a wardrobe? Yeah. On Facebook, and he liked it. He said, "Can I order?" I said, "You can definitely order." And
Yes,
I really
yes,
welcomed
yes,
him. I loved
yes,
it.
Yes.
I remember myself pacing to Novik and back, to Novik and back, showing him the processes. And then I told Ronnie, this is our first deal. And
Go on.
and when we produced his wardrobe,
Yes.
he was very happy.
Yeah.
He was very happy. We never got any other customer from him, not a recommendation,
Yes.
but it was enough push for us to know that now the market is not from someone who can see you,
Yes.
especially since we were working from home.
Yes.
So we went online,
Yes.
and that's where we started.
Okay.
Yeah, we started from there.
Well, David, I want to read a couple of comments from here. Somebody saying, Eddie Okila, thank you very much for bringing that gentleman on the show. I'm very interesting, and this is fascinating to see young people actually involve themselves in making, furnitures that are very, that can compete with some international product. I have a problem of quality. Most Ugandan carpentry people or people in carpentry business usually don't pay attention to details, and the quality is always wanting. Can you ask David, how are they doing it? Have they improved? Well, I think that we can ask David by putting some of the pictures up. We can see, let's put up some of the pictures from Arc Furniture up there so that people can see. So right there, let's talk to this. David, the process of making this chair, somebody's asking if you now improve attention to details. Yes. I guess it's talking about the cushions and the stuff like that, the fitting and stuff like that. Do you have other people who do this work?
Exactly. One thing that is tying the furniture industry back is the fact that you find one person wanting to do everything.
Yeah.
So you always need that person that can cite who can do what best and let everyone specialize. Furniture is a very, very broad. It's a broad spectrum of work.
Yes.
So you cannot do it all well.
Actually, hold it there. So that right there, that was my table. So I walked to these guys and I gave them a huge challenge, and I said, I want you guys to make a 6-seater dining table for my house. And they made that table. I remember that table was rejected and it caused some serious problems. David, so how did you ever improve this table? Because the chairs are there, but the table, we didn't like them. Because of you guys became too creative in putting the lines which I didn't want and stuff like that. That's another problem. Perhaps the other gentleman is talking about. How do you, make sure you understand the client beyond just what they have told you and your creativity?
Well, I think particularly from that particular job,
yes,
we were now trying to experiment with people who are more attentive to detail.
Yes.
People who actually know their furniture.
So was I a difficult client?
You were difficult at that time. But
yes.
But I think you were difficult. Yeah. But then every challenge comes with it a step for you to step higher.
Yes.
So from there on, I knew if you're ordering a table, and I think I did it on the second one. What do you want? What don't you want?
Okay.
Can I add this? Can I add this? Can I add this? So
there you have it. The table was changed. Is now right there. Isn't that beautiful, people? Do you have a furniture? So that's a table in my house done by these guys and looks beautiful. Let's check the next picture and see. We did the chairs and somehow it was right there. So how does this make you feel when you finished and delivered something like this to somebody's home? Of course I have issues with the cushions, which is the person was asking. The attention to details, the one who did the cushion wasn't. So that's my house. I like to make sure that my things are done by Ugandans. So that's not an imported wood, just so you know. It's a wood created by these guys, and you can go into their workshop and give them business. Let's see another picture. And that it look like, right there. So they have improved the attention to details, as you can see, and I went for something called ironwood. You want to explain what ironwood is? I gave them some bloody nose, as they call it in Uganda. It was a difficult thing for them to yes, David, pick it up from there. Yes.
Well, ironwood, actually, I think among all our customers, Eddie, you are the only person that has ironwood. And even if you move this country again, maybe you would find someone else from Sudan. This is ironwood particularly. This is a wood type from Sudan, from Central Sudan, from the Central Sudan forests mostly. It is a very hard piece of wood. It is too hard that even working it, you need to know it. And it's mostly worked by people from the north because they have access from it. Or to eat, so they've gotten time to experiment with it. In the central here, it is very hard because even the materials we have here, like the wood glue and everything, will not work with it. We actually had to order a specific amount of a specific type of glue called well, I'm forgetting the name. Pono glue from Kenya to work with your pieces, because every other type of wood we had here kept rejecting. Every other type of glue kept rejecting the piece of wood. It would again split. But it was a nice experience working with the iron wood, and it is very beautiful. It's very grainous. It is really a rich type of wood. It supplements mugavu, which is the most grainous wood we have here, locally growing here in Uganda. But iron wood was a new experience for me. And when I recommend it to customers, well, I recommend them.
You must have an exquisite taste to certain things. The first time I interacted with that wood, I was out of Uganda, and I found out that some of the furniture in White House in the US is made by some of the finest woodwork from, you know, Sudan and, you know, this place is called Congo. And you too can actually make sure you get something that you love and you can be part of. And I want to stretch this point to so many people out there that when you dream of having a furniture in your house, you need to be able to put that picture up again so I can explain it to people, you know, something that people don't understand. When you have a dream, we all dream of something cool and beautiful that we want to have. And you can set up the target and take your time, but you must find people who are able to do it. That type of wood is what is used in White House. If you look at the White House and, you know, many of these state house, you know, particularly in Europe, they have some very exquisite taste for wood. I mean, President Putin, for example, his wood in the state house, if we call it, or you know, the Russia house, whatever we call it, is such an amazing taste of wood. Now, it's created by a carpenter. So when I walked out there and I interacted with some of these things, one time I was in Dominican Republic, and I went to a house, one of those training I do, and I saw some certain type of wood. That's when I interacted with some of the most beautiful wood, and I said, one day we will have this. So yes, it's something that I want people to understand, that you can have your own dream, and your dream can be brought to a reality, and your dream can live. So it's not just any type of wood. David can tell you, the first time I gave it to them, it was very difficult to deal with. And I wanted to share that experience. Was I a crazy customer to you guys when we first started?
Well, unfortunately, I will say yes. Yes. Because when you talked about, well, I want iron wood, I went to the procurement guy and told him, you know what, Ronnie, that is my big brother, by the way. We need ironwood. He said, what is that? I said, no, there is ironwood. So he goes to Industrial, where we purchase this wood. He tried to call every wood person he knows, asking for ironwood, and they told him, unless you're looking for ebony, which you're also not going to get, there's nothing like ironwood. I said, but no. I went online, I gave him pictures of ironwood. So now he goes with a picture, I want this type of wood. And it was lucky for us, that lucky for Eddie too, that we came across someone who had a full warehouse of ironwood. You
could tell them the story of how long that wood has been there.
He had a full warehouse of ironwood. This was a foreigner. This guy was Indian. I don't know if the warehouse had been captured in the 76 war that took off Amin. Then it had been kept locked for all this time, and this wood had been purchased with the intention of using it to make lorry bottoms. That is the wood that you find in the lorry bottoms, because it even if you dipped it in water for a year, it will not react, it will not break, it will not dissolve, it won't even lose color. So that was ironwood. We find a full warehouse of ironwood and mahogany, and Ronnie says, well, there's a warehouse here. I said, let's go and look at it. And when I had this, the wood had of course withered a bit, that you could not identify it from the top. I told him, no, let's go with our plane and let's plane one piece. And the beauty of it was excess. Actually, I think besides Eddie, I too have ironwood in my house.
Yes.
Because it was superb. It was something good. We first of all bought a section of the wood in the warehouse, but we ended up buying everything.
Yeah.
We bought everything. We had a sales agreement with this guy, and I told him, if you sell one piece, yes, you're going to court.
And 90% of that wood is at House of Talent.
Exactly.
So again, I want to just make everybody understand that it is possible. We're talking about Buy Uganda, Build Uganda. Just put it up there. We're talking about Ugandan made furniture. Can you make it possible? Can Ugandans do it? So when we're talking about local content development, focusing on Ugandan made furniture in this particular show today, we want you to know that buy from these guys, go to these guys and give them opportunity. These guys on Facebook, write to them, give them an order, and they'll be able to produce something very good for you. A lot of us are talking about these things. If you're a carpenter out there, send us a message, show us what you're having, and we'll definitely be able to bring this to you. IKEA has or makes the best type of woods and creativity in the whole world. All of us dream of buying IKEA, but do we have the money to buy IKEA? Do our earnings take us there? Can we reach there? If not, then it's something that we need to be able to think about the alternative, and these guys do much better than David, we've got to bring this show to a close. Let's go back to your workshop and finalize some of the take us through the process of creativity that some of these furniture go through, so that somebody who is looking for, what's that? For example, I see you fitting in a house. So do you custom made fitting? When you talk about custom made fitting in a house, is that a new house?
Yes, that is a new house. We were on site in Imbarara. Mm-hmm. One of our customers, from a recommendation, he's a Kano, okay. Kano Baguma. Okay. I'll mention. So he gave us his whole house to furnish it. We first of all did his door work, door frames and everything. We shut the house. Mm-hmm. Then he said, I want now items. Mm-hmm. We have an album.
That's the door woodwork you're talking about?
Yes, yes. Those were some of his doors. Mm-hmm. So we first of all have an album. We give you options. And then you do pick your options, and then we produce what you choose. Okay. You can even alter some of these options. I want this, but we are going to change this to this. So when we create this for you, then we come on site and fit it ourselves, because the fitting determines everything. If it's even if it's good and the fitting is wrong, it won't come out. Okay, let's check on the next picture up there. The next picture, if you put the next picture up there, you were attempting to make this was your first creation. Okay, let's talk about this. That's David Anderson Onyango up there, So what was the story behind this desk? We see this thing on Pinterest. We don't know how it is made, but you guys are making up a table, So that was our first attempt at a picnic, a folding picnic table. Yes. We get this customer, guy is Indian. That guy right there is a law student who is into carpenter. Continue. Guy is Indian. He says, I want a picnic table that folds. He sent us a video from Pinterest, of course. Yes. So he's like, but you people can't make this. I know. You just make one that is static. So I told him, if I make this and it folds, we are doubling the cost. He says, well, as long as it does what I want, I'm going to pay. So the initial cost was supposed to be 800,000 for one that doesn't fold. So he's like, oh, I told him it won't be 1.6. It will become 2 point something. He says, as long as I get this thing and it folds. He has a smaller compound, but he wants to be able to expand it when he has more guests. Okay. And people host a lot of people over the weekends. So why don't you make House of Talent a gift of that, table? We want to see if you can make another one. You made one table. Put that picture up again and we see that video. If we can task Onyango to actually make this with his people and make one more table. Put it up right there. Let's see. Well, that is me checking it out. Yes. How long ago has this been? Well, that was, I think, 4 months back. Okay. And it is still working? Perfectly.
So why don't you make this for House of Tanya? We want one just to give us a sample, and we see if you can use it here and see if you can recreate the same thing you have done before.
Well, the first agreement will be if you don't want it in ironwood, because that will be the only issue. Otherwise, it is something very easy and it's something nice, and I would love so much to showcase it, because this is something new. You don't find it everywhere.
Okay, next furniture. Let's see if we can run through this quickly, and we want to know whether you too can make an order with these guys. Please visit them up. Buy Uganda, build Uganda. What's that?
That's a chest of drawer. It's a 5-drawer chest. Yeah, but that was made for a customer who particularly had purchased a baby coat from one of the big shops, but it didn't come with a chest of drawer. So he's like,
because he couldn't afford that one. I know it's very expensive when you go from there.
So he says, come around, see my bed, and produce something.
Okay, so next, let's look at the other pictures. Okay, so that's the bed right there.
That's a mahogany bed. It's totally hardwood. It is all mahogany. It was made for one of our customers that is also a staunch wood fan like you, natural wood, no paint. It simply varnished to coat it, but it is no paint. All that is natural color. Okay, next. This is the inside fitting. Yes. Now these are fitted wardrobes, the ones that are unmovable. This was also on site in Kampala for one of our customers. Wow. All right, next. That is a two-seater dining set. Very rare. People don't usually order such things because, but that is me testing it out to make sure you won't fall. It was a mahogany. It was fully mahogany, ordered by one of our good customers. And let's look at this. So this is right in your workshop. Yes. So how do we make sure that the cushions up there actually fit better? Because the downer one is fitting very well, but the upper one is fitting. And I met a friend of mine who said that we need to be able to use high density foam to be able to make sure that the seats are much more comfortable and stuff like that. Are you guys going into that? Are you partnering with people who are making this? Who makes the cushion? Do they understand? Do they measure it on? What's the process like as we close the show? Well, we always advise customers that we are embracing the high density mattresses, and so our prices have become a little more competitive, because when you're going into high density, the costs are higher. But we do give these options to our customers, and we actually refrain from making lower qualities because well, sometimes you don't want someone talking bad about you, because when that customer can't explain that they ordered at a low price, it's the chair that's going to talk. And if he's talking a bad language, it's bad for you already. All right, well, we've been talking to David Onyango, and we've brought the show to the close. David, thank you very much for coming to the program. What's your last word to a customer who is watching you, to somebody who's watching you, and to a carpenter who has never got an opportunity to be where you are today? What would you say to them, and what would you say to most Ugandans about Buy Uganda, Build Uganda? I'll begin with the carpenters. Yes. People want to support you. Give them their quality. Give them the quality that they deserve. Charge them the money, but give them the quality. Because one thing I've learned in my experience is that people know good things, and they are willing to pay for them. So you don't have to alter the quality just because you're pulling a price down. Make the quality fit the price, and then the right people will buy it. My advice to customers is that there are a lot of shady people in the carpentry business, but the good people are there too. So find them, and they will give you what you deserve. Not only me, there are a lot of other people that are doing woodwork, and they're doing it well. We at Arc Furniture, we shall be ready to serve you. My team is there. We have manager Ronnie. He's the productions manager. When you come to Arc Furniture, you're going to find him there grinding these machines one by one, making sure items are coming out. And my whole team is there. We have manager Junior. He's the general manager running the whole place. Usually you find him up in front, and he's a finishing man. You always find him criticizing the surface of an item, critically checking it out, but he's there at the job. And we have a lot of other workers, Gideon, a lot of them. I'll mention names, I will not, but they are all there, and they're dedicated to produce the quality that we have set for ourselves. And our pace still on the run up. And my advice to everyone else that is doing production, their creativity is that creativity alone is not enough until you monetize it, because at the end of the day, even if you have a passion for it, the money is what matters. You cannot push forward without money. You cannot develop it without the money. You cannot expand it and actually feel proud of it after 5 years if it has not given you anything. So go and see how you can monetize that creative work that you're doing. If you are an artist, if you are a woodworker, whatever you do that is part of creativity, do monetize it. Give it, go and do research, read the books, there's general knowledge that will apply in your business, and then you can consult. I mean, to those of other people that have seen enough of woodwork and of those professions that you're working in, are always free to share. If anyone is gluttonous with their knowledge and they don't share it, then they're not the right person for the job. These are people who know their crafts are always willing, because they know they're also growing. You can never outgrow them. They didn't stop. Yeah. So go and ask that person, come to Oracle Furniture, we are there. I'll take you through my business, because I don't care. I am running on a high-speed app. You will never catch me. Or if you try, I'll love the competition.
Well, we've come to the end of the show. Creative Industry has come to the end of the show. We want to say thank you very much, everybody, and thank you very much for joining me. We're looking forward to bring you another great show next week, same time, same place, right here on House of Talent Television. It's a wrap from us here, and from us and the crew, all behind the camera, and the guys who make everything look beautiful, the guys who bring you the beautiful pictures and make sure that this production reaches you. We want to say a shout out to all of you guys. And until then, Creative Industry has come to an end. Stay blessed and stay creating. Tell a neighbor and share it far and wide. Edio Killer, David Anderson Onyango, signing out.
We're at level where you can say, at least I can earn something from hip hop music, or from hip hop as a culture. So we're at that step now. But now finding ways you can do it is very, very important, because a business is a commercial activity.
Yes.
Means that if something is not commercial, it's not what?
Yes.
So the business.
Yes, yeah.
So how are you going to make it a business? That's where you have to look through, either get people to understand that most of the time start as solo artists. You find that as a solo artist, you have to do everything, everything for yourself. Yeah. That era of I remember way back, some people used to say like, you know, I'm looking for a man, like that, like the statement, I'm looking for a manager, used to be very common then.
Yes.
Because people used not to accept that there are no managers until you do something.
Yes.
You know.
For yourself.
Yes, until you do something for yourself. So it used to be a common statement for artists. I'm looking for a manager. Oh, I'm looking for a manager. I have music. I'm looking for a manager.
Yeah.
But the industry, our sector is different.
Yeah.
You have to do something. If you sit on yourself and say you're looking for a manager, then you never get them.
Yes.
Because most of the managers we have in Uganda, by the way,
Yes.
come after an artist has blown up.
Yes.
He has done something.
Yeah.
And then he's down hiring the manager.
Yeah.
But if you're working for a manager who's going to hire you and then invest in you,
Yeah.
that's going to take time.
Yeah.
You know. So as a solo artist, you find that you have to do almost everything.
Yeah.
You know, and then along the way people come and support.
Yeah.
You know. So looking at your craft, how you can make a business out of it,
Yeah.
either directly or indirectly.
Yes.
It means you need to. Yes, you have to think, but you need a team. They might not be your permanent team members, but share a word with someone like, okay,
Yeah.
how can we make this a business?
Welcome to the Creative Industry Talk today. My name is Eddie Okela, and my guest on the program today is a poet. He's a lawyer, he's a writer, he's a theater poetry writer. That's the right, correct, title for him. Ngobi Kagai, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for coming, and we're grateful to have you this day on the program. Have you been?
I've been okay. We've seen better days,
Yes.
but here we are still
Yes.
still hanging in there.
Yeah. And of course, starting on that lighter note, COVID-19 came and disrupted so many things around us.
Yes.
How have you been able to manage to stay afloat as an artist?
Well, the only way you can the only way you can survive in a disruption is by proving to be a disruption to the force itself.
Yes.
And so for me, to be honest with you, the only way I've been able to survive was I had to adapt my methods of livelihood. As a person who was always performing and being always there, putting my works out there to see how people can come to theaters. Theaters were closed. Now we had to come up with new means, and that is when I went into publishing. So for me, I just started creating products for our audiences to start reading. So if previously they were watching, now we wanted them to read our stuff. They had time to be home, so there were no excuses.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. What a very fantastic turnaround on time there. I want to take this moment to welcome all of you guys to the program. The Creative Industry Talk exists for all of you creative people out there, and every creative thinker out there, every creative mind out there. This is a platform for you to share ideas, to expose your work, and to make sure that if you have work, like Ngobi has said, make sure you find a new means to share it out. And this is one of the means to share it out. And we're going to definitely be showing some of his works here while we do the interview. We're live on Twitter, live on Facebook, live on YouTube. Go there, share it far and wide, love it, share it with your grandmother, grandfather, cousins, sisters, everyone all across the world. And to all the guys in the diaspora who always stay awake to watch the show, we're ready to rock and roll. Ngobi,
Yes.
coming back to you.
Yeah.
If I'm seeing you for the first time and I'm wondering who you are,
Yes.
what would you say is the right definition of you? Are you Ugandan? Who is Ngobi Kagai? Are you Ugandan? If yes, what are the values that define you? From the ancestry point of view, which part of this beautiful country do you come from?
Yes, thank you. I am Ugandan. I was born in Jinja. I come from Uganda district, but I was born in Jinja. See, if I call myself the book guy, like every time you see Kagai, think of books. Every time you see me walk, every time you see me breathe, every time you see me talk, I want you to imagine Uganda's best literature. I want you to imagine Uganda's freshest young writers. I want you to imagine the future of the literary culture that East Africa portends.
Wow.
Yeah.
And from the family point of view, I mean, are you the firstborn, lastborn? Usually, how did you?
Those things. So I'm the firstborn for my father and mother. Yeah. But by the time those two lovebirds met, they had had children. Yeah. My mother had a daughter, and my father had a son. So I am the thirdborn for both of them, but I'm their first as well in a family of 4.
Okay.
Yes.
So growing up, how did you become a poet? First of all,
I became a poet. I'm a late bloomer. I became a poet in my 3rd year at Makerere University. It was not even in the plan to be a poet or to be a writer. I was humbly and diligently studying to be a lawyer. I swear, until one day, some young lady who is, to be honest, I used to fancy, tells me about poetry. And she says, Peter, if you like me, you better come and watch me perform at the National Theatre. And I said, okay, those things are for girls. Who wants to be there to start listening to flowers and stuff? But I went to the National Theatre, and man, from that time, my life changed. Because there are so many stereotypes that were debunked. First, indeed, there was a group of poets, but majority of them were guys. Secondly, there was poetry about culture, about patriotism, about Pan-Africanism, about love. But there was a lot more to poetry than just things that I thought it was just about flowers. And the auditorium was packed to the brim. So I was surprised that there were people in Kampala who, like me, loved literature, loved poetry, but we didn't know that we existed. So that's when I joined the group. For me, the plan was always to be a lawyer. I was raised properly, to get that white collar job. But after my 3rd year, immediately after graduation, I became a writer, because from the time that I first stepped in the theater, I knew this is where I belonged. I felt I had found myself.
Wow, what a fascinating story right there, Kagai. I want to just, before we get into the lawyer point of it, was any of your parents, poets or writers or teachers?
Yes.
Because sometimes children tend to gravitate to what is around their space.
Yes.
Take us through that.
No, for me, I grew up. My parents are both my parents are primary school teachers. Yeah. At least now they are retired, and they were both teaching English language, and so we had so many. For me, where in the house I grew up in, our toys were books. We could destroy everything in the house except books. Our parents loved reading. They treasured books. We saw the way you see parents today on their phones every day. Now, for us in our home, our parents were always reading books. We used to fight for the newspaper every day. Every time our father would come back home, the first thing we'd fight for was the crossword puzzle. We were that kind of family. So we grew up in a family that treasured reading, that valued reading as a vocational activity. And my father, nobody really fancied poetry, but my father had poetry books. So for me, I started reading poetry when I was young, but it was a private fascination. You don't go to your friends, when you're playing soccer and you start telling them, guys, first wait, I want to recite for you William Wordsworth. No. So it was something that I nurtured from home, domestically, but privately. The first time I had a chance to publicly show my love for poetry was in my 3rd year. That is when I found a group of university students who were like me, were passionate about poetry, and we were open. We could share our sentiments, and everyone was okay with that.
Wow. Well, we're talking to Kagai right here on the Creative Industry Talk. Do you have a question for him? Do you have something to say to Peter? He's the lawyer. We're going to get into the lawyer bit of it. Reading to become a lawyer. And along the way, flipping to writing. It brings me to the first question. When did you first realize you wanted to actually be a writer?
Man, the first time I walked into the National Theatre stage. And for me, what attracted me to it was I was in the audience and I'd been invited by a friend of mine who I didn't know took poetry this seriously, but I sat there and I felt moved by the words these young people were speaking. As I studied literature for 6 years, I honestly had never met a Ugandan poet in blood and flesh. Yeah. I always thought writers were dead, you know? Like, by the time they are teaching your book in school, at university, you must be dead. Yeah. So the idea of coming across a writer who was alive was alien to me. So the first time I walked into that stage, I saw what these guys were writing, I felt what they were writing, and I said to myself, I want to do that. I want to have the power to write words and speak them and move audiences the way I feel I have been moved.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And how long does it take you to write a book? You've been publishing. We're going to get into it just now. How long did it take you to write a book?
No, my first book took me 6 years. 6 years to write and 1 year to prepare for publishing. So I would say 7 years. That is, you know, taking a period of, you know, learning to find your voice as a writer, learning to find your style, you know, as a writer, learning your market, you know, as a business person, learning about the reading culture. So it took me a period of 6 years to be able to understand that if I'm ever going to produce a book and I want people to read it long after I am gone, this is what I have to do.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, Ngobi, we're going to take you to this next question about flipping from the law.
Yes.
The first love being the law. And then now the second love became the first love. Have you ever practiced law? What did your parents see that you were not seeing? When you say to them, I'm going to be a writer, did your father or your mother loved it at the time? Can you take us through it? Because most times parents say, we want you to be a doctor. We want you to be an engineer. And most of those, you know, traditional parents like yours back in the days who are typical teachers who live in a career path that either a doctor or a lawyer, and I can see you into being a lawyer. Yeah. What happened when you finally say, Mom, Dad, I'm sorry, but I think I gravitated towards this is where I want to be. What was the reaction from your parents? Just so that we can learn from you, for somebody out there who may not know how to turn around that.
Well, first and foremost, I practiced law for only 1 week. Actually, not even 1 week. I think for 4 days of the first week. And I spent more time writing poems than, you know, than writing legal briefs. All the days that I went to court, honestly speaking, the judge and the lawyers were making submissions. I was writing poems. So at the end of the week, I had to be honest to myself, and this was a question I asked myself. But Peter, what do you really want to do with your life? You are at a law firm, but you are writing poems more than actually attending to the legal work. So why don't you? Why are you cheating yourself? So why don't you focus on this thing that you're calling your passion? Try to nurture it and stop living a fake life because you're pretending to enjoy this lawyering thing, but you are not. So I went and I talked to at the time I was still at LDC. I'd graduated, I had a bachelor's in law, and I was studying to get my practicing certificate. And we were in term 3. And so, but the time, but I was doing some practice, some paralegal work. And I said to myself, I'm not just cheating myself, but I'm also cheating my parents. They had given me tuition to pay. But I made sure I waited for my father to come back home, and my mother was already at home. So I went and I told them, I am done, I am tired, and I didn't eat your school fees.
Here is the money.
Here is the cash. I want to be a writer. Please allow me to drop out of LDC and pursue this thing. And my father asked me the same question, and they were not happy, that to be honest.
You could see.
I could see. But then they could also understand that I wanted to do something that I wanted. So my father asked me the question, what are you going to do now? My answer to him was, what am I not going to do? And because for me, I saw it as an opportunity to explore every other thing I always wanted to do with my poetry. So be it taking it to studio, be it taking it to theaters around the world, be it publishing it in books. I felt I needed the time to grow. I needed the time to unlearn. I needed the time. I needed the time to practice my craft. And so they were not happy, but they were supportive. I mean, there are days I've gone home and I found my mother praying for my book, dedicating it to, and you walk in the house and she's saying, "Dear God, make my son a successful writer." Yes. So I recognize those efforts that my parents and the pains that they had to go through to allow me to become the thing that I wanted to be.
Well, I mean, what would be your best advice to a parent out there? I mean, at least you took a different path altogether. You were able to go out, tell your parents, look, respectfully, this is not something I feel I should continue. Allow me to drop out, pursue this, as opposed to going to do law and continue with the practicing certificate and get out of this law school, go to the courtroom or go to the law firm to try and practice law. Yet you know very well that your heart was not there and you're not going to enjoy it. So you definitely navigated the turbulent waters quite very nicely with your parents. Learning from the response from your parents and the decision you made then, what would be your best advice at this particular moment to children who want to make a turnaround? I mean, COVID-19 has come and hit. There is definitely a child out there who has turned around and realized that, you know what? The things I want to do, they wanted me to do at campus, I've since found out that my abilities are here and I want to develop this, and they are watching you right now. What would be your best advice to them? Not to say they should drop off school, but to go through what you've gone through is not an easy journey.
Yes, for me, what I would, first and foremost, what I would tell them is both the parent and the child or the guardian. What I would say is you have a choice to make. Either you want to invest in success or you want to invest in happiness. Yes. For me, what I have realized is I wish I cared more about the things that made me happy as a child when I was growing up, so that I even become skilled, more skilled in the things that bring me joy. I wish our society, and this for me goes to the child, to the parent, to anybody invested in education. As a society, we need to start investing more in people's interests rather than society's interests. Because society's interests are static, but individual interests evolve with interests. The way you think of a child in nursery right now, imagine thinking what they're going to be doing 10 years from now, when we don't even know what COVID is going to behave like 2 months from now. So why do we prepare people for a future that we don't even know it looks like? You see, now for all the resources that my parents invested in me being a lawyer, I eventually became a writer. And if they were not the kind of people who were raised or who in themselves were flexible enough to allow me to do, there would have been conflicts that we had. So for me, the advice that I give to parents, to the kids is this: invest in your happiness. There is nothing more important to you in your life than your own happiness. And the things that make you happy, imagine if they're the things that were making you money. Thank you.
Wow. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a break. This gentleman is on the roll, and I so far love this first part of the interview. I am talking to Kagai Ngobi Peter, who is a poet, a theater poet, a writer, and of course is a lawyer, practicing in the writing space. What a skill right there. And of course, if you have questions and answers, please drop it in there. We want to know whether you have some questions for Peter. If you're watching the show, please share it far and wide. Make sure you don't leave anyone behind. COVID-19 has come and hit, and we need to work with everyone. Stay right there. Creative Industry Talk. We'll be right back after this break. I want to know from you, you know, and of course somebody who's watching this show either from here or a child watching in Myanmar or wherever they're watching, or in Congo where we're watched very much, would want to know, if I don't have the money and I have the passion and I have the zeal and I have the drive, but money is also needed to start it. How do I start? Where do I go? At least for you, your father gave you 300,000 to go and do a course. We don't know whether you spent the whole school fees or you only spent 1 month, took part of the school fees. What happened? How did you start, you know, your fashion? Did you get money from somewhere? How should one start if I want to start? And I was like, Kasozi.
I think we should try to be close to people who love what we do, basically.
Yeah.
Because even me, I managed to skip from that low level to another level because I had networks. Yes. Just me and Mia meeting Gloria Wavamuno changed my mind. Because I used to be Muyayona Street. So someone introduced me to Gloria Wavamuno, that I'm good, me I didn't know. Then, yeah, I lost my phone like over 2 months.
Yes.
So surprisingly, I got a text from Gloria. Customers have been looking for you over the last 3 months. Then my mind was like, the daughter of a tycoon is looking for me. I was even moving on Loom Street.
Yes.
So that changed my mind and started respecting myself a bit. Like, somehow I'm important. If someone important
is looking for me,
that's opened my mind and start to know that I need to be serious, have a skill, have a business, and also work more with my fashion, because by then I was still an amateur. So I never had money to go to buy books, and no designer could invite me, So I got to know basically all the knowledge through Alistock, but I couldn't afford any book. I could go open and feed the mind. I move out, I make notes before I forget. You get?
Yes.
Yeah.
But first of all, if you're passionate about what you're going to do, I believe in all work we do mistakes. So my first experience at work was when I reached at work. You know, you have to be confident when you're doing something, even if it's wrong. In our industry, you have to be confident. Once you're all confident, you give support of it. So my first cap to make was to a customer, and I made a mistake on it because the waitress came and gave me a cappuccino single. I made it and gave it to her. Then she told me, no, the guest wanted a flower on it. To not make a flower. So I said, what I've given you is what is supposed to go. I cannot make another cup of coffee. Please take that to a customer. If he calls me, I'll explain why. So that's how I started. But to me, when you love what you're doing, even when you make mistakes, still you will support that mistake and it will go. So I have love for the coffee, for the industry. I have love for what I'm doing, and when I'm on the station, trust me, I don't want anyone to disturb me. Even if you are home, even if you are the boss, once I'm in my bar, it is my turn.
It's your
I
area.
wait for my shift to get done, then you can bring me a coffee.
Interesting. If you're watching us, this is House of Talent, the coffee break. We are having some fun with Isaac and Charles here. You know, Charles telling us about his first experience, and he was supposed to make a certain cup of coffee, which he did not do. But these are the different experiences that we have. So if you're a barista and it's your first day of the job, relax. You got this. Have some confidence. We have you here at the coffee break, and we're going to take a break right now. But when we return, we still have that part of we're going to brew a cup of coffee, which I believe is going to be very tasty. Okay. And we'll also be talking about how can we set up a successful coffee business, which I think very many people are trying to get into right now. So we'll take a break right now. This is the Coffee Break on House of Talent Television.
If you look at City Oilers, I mean, we've been, you know, champions for the last, you know, 7 years, and I can tell you that it's because of you know, the players that we have on the team, and I would say that we have, you know, some of the best players in the Ugandan league, you know, on the City Oil. So as a coach, you want to pick your best players in the country to play, and I will not say it is unfortunate that they all come from City Oil, but you know, a lot of those players, you know, are City Oilers, and I really, you know, don't want to see it that because I'm a City Oilers coach and management is City Oilers, it's just purely on statistics, and
in summary, you're saying it's purely based on merit.
It's definitely based on merit.
What does it mean to be a community artist? What does it mean to to work within a community whereby you are all in the same boat, but maybe no, what did they say? You are in the same storm, but in different boats. Yeah. So so I think here for me, if you are working for a community, there are certain things that you have to do for the sake of the community, and where you're not expecting to earn from. And if you're working for yourself, it doesn't mean that if you're working for yourself, you don't work for the community, or when you're working for the community, you don't work for yourself. So I think there is a need for a differentiation here in terms of like, what do I do for my community and what do I do for myself? Because at the end of the day, you need to survive. You need revenue. You need to pay your bills or support your mom as well with your siblings. So I think
you are doing that because you want to earn.
Exactly.
So that you can improve onto your life, so that you can, like you said.
So for me, I think the advice would be like, what is the relationship between your community work and the work and your business? You know, if you think your community work is your business, then you have to have a model that is going to work to help you to earn from that community work. But then it ceases to be community and it becomes your business. You get what I mean? So when we work for our communities in the arts community, we work for them. We actually invest in them, you know, and then for us to survive as individuals, we have to find other alternative sources of revenue. And that's where I think Abdul has to think around and say, okay, my graffiti, my community education, my art, my area is where I feed my community with my skill and time and investment. But for me as a person, I need to find my own business revenue.
So in other words, Faisal, what you're saying is that what we're seeing are being put on the screen. The
public art.
So for example, Abdul, what Faisal is saying, that you can sell that art piece. So that should be in somebody's office. That should be in my office. That should be in Faisal's office. That should be in my sitting room. It reminds me that this work is painted by a community, by Abdul in this community, and I have it in my home. Can we hear some more from Jaja? Of course, Jaja is going to play for us that song, Kitenge. You've heard it, the sound, beautiful, and we're going to dive into how Kitenge is going to make it to the world stage as planned by Latif Shah.
Abaami n'abakyala mwenna naddala bali erudda eri mu North London kyembakuutira kiri kimu butekubagiza wadde embeera za korona bangi zatutagula kakati tuve mu mayumba kitengi pateyi n'ensonze bumale ate nga tetusaanidde ddala kugisuwa mwani yabagamba okwambala engoye z'emivumba tujja kwambala bitengi byokka designer Latifu Uganda omurasita owakabye yatunga mu nnyonyi Maliki Jeni ne Hawa abo basibi banviri alo tujja kuba nabo Anifa wa makeup Mariamu yedikoletako ne popini ebyokulya bingi nnyo ebyekifirika Madamu Sara Shoshi ebitaddemu umukono Olivia Katharini Nalima Maka manyinga ulira Kolono twambala ebitengi byokka Kolono twambala bitengi byokka.
When you're alive, it's easy to forget that you will die, or even that death actually exists. Beyond rest, caskets and cemeteries encountered seasonally. You cannot feel the sting of death anymore. You believe such things are reserved for others, the unwanted stepchildren of gods who did not exist anyway. When you're young, it's easy to forget that you'll grow old, that you'll lose the smooth texture of skin or the milky white of eye, that you're beautiful. Black flocks of hair shall grow one day, and your heart will grow weary with lack of ambition. You forget that one day you lose the spring of step and the innocence of youth. You'll lose the liberty to dream dreams and the lifetime to chase them. You forget that you'll grow bold, bent and bitter. When you're healthy, well sane and strong, it's easy to forget the pain of illness, the physical pain and the mental pain, the anguish of immobility, the dread of impending death, and the insane lasting afterlife itself. When you're born in Kampala, it's easy to forget the deprivation of rural childhood. When you're bread and buttered bread and frozen milk, it's easy to forget the hard-corn cobwebs welcoming the toddler in Morocco to yet another day every day. When you're perpetually conflicted between beef and mutton for dinner, it's easy to forget the thousands of fellow citizens out there who've been constantly unsure of their next meal from the day they left the womb. If the toughest read in your life has been choosing between Buddha and Namagunga for your high school education, it's easy to forget that 70% of the nation's children do not have the chance of knowing the meaning of the boring word blackboard. When you're alive, it's easy to forget that you'll die. When you're safe, sound, fat and pampered in your gated and manicured suburban homes, it's easy to forget that the masses of Ugandans out there can only manage half the night's sleep, wooing to incessant battles with mosquitoes, bedbugs, and stomach grumbling from emptiness. When you've gained admission to Makerere, it's easy to forget that you were once mortal, that the blood in your veins isn't of blue hue, and that your arteries are not pipes of gold-plated steel. When you're young, it's easy to forget that you'll grow old, and surely you'll die. When you're young, when all you think of is girls and boys and toys, a good job, money to spend and life to live, it's easy to forget that your country needs you. That by sitting there and wishing for good times, by refusing to involve yourself in efforts to right the wrongs of society, you're effectively betraying your country. When you're young, it's easy to forget that by not speaking for justice and writing for justice and walking and marching for justice, you're effectively as guilty as the corrupt robbing public funds, as guilty as those parasitic politicians for killing pregnant mothers due to lack of medicines in hospitals, as guilty as those reactionaries for selling the soul of Uganda to force yonder. It's easy to forget
Welcome back from that break. That is what we call poetry right there. That is Kagai Peter Ngobi's work at Nabisunsa Girls, one of the traditional schools in Kampala in Uganda, one of the strongest schools, girls' schools in the eastern part of Africa, right here in Kampala, right here in Uganda. And you can see what this gentleman is doing with the poetry clubs in Nabisonsa Secondary School, and we're going to see a little bit more about that. Peter, welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
I want to encourage everyone, first of all, to send in their kisses and disses to you. Those who have to send kiss.
Bring.
Yes, but I want to take you straight, Peter. Welcome back to the program. Peter, our topic today is, I'm going to ask the team to put it up there for everyone out there, is looking at defining and distinguishing poetry, prose, and drama in Uganda and beyond borders. I will repeat this. Defining and distinguishing poetry, prose being style, and drama in Uganda and beyond borders. Now, always when we talk about this, you of course have a very elaborate, write-up there. If you look at your, the first work which you brought out was Romeo and Juliet in Kampala. We want to know what inspired that. Was that your first work? And while you're throwing in a little bit about those three things that we've talked about, defining, of course, and distinguishing the difference between the prose, the drama, and of course
the poetry
in behind. And so many times we don't know which one is which, and we want people to understand from the creative industry talk what this really is about. We're talking about defining that moment, given the COVID-19 situation, given the education system that have been completely, down for the last 2 years, and we're being told that suddenly there's a possibility that we're not going to open, come 2022 or thereabout. And COVID is throwing a lot of things there, but dive into it.
Well, so distinguishing prose poetry and drama.
Yes.
This is an academic question.
Yes.
So let me just be frank with it. So we have literature. Literature can easily simply be defined as the creative expressions of a given culture, of a given people. And it is normally done through writing, through singing, through speaking. Now, literature is that creative expression that focuses on the written word. As you hear the word itself, literature, literate, meaning to write. Now, we are going to restrict ourselves to three things. So we talked about prose, we talked about poetry, we talked about drama. Now, prose is that kind of creative expression that is more elaborate. It is more elaborate. So if you're reading a novel, if you're reading a short story, if you're reading a biography, that falls within if you're an essay, that is in a form of prose. Now poetry is more rhythmic. It is briefer, and in most cases we use a lot of descriptive and colorful language. So if you look at a novel and a poem, what a novel can say in 200 words, a poem can say in 1 page. Now, those are the differences between the poetry.
That's the difference between these. Yes.
Now, when it comes to drama, the way you hear the word, drama is language in action. Language in action. So drama is that kind of written literature where you capture characters talking. But from what they talk, for you the reader or the listener, you can infer what is taking place. So drama is always takes place when characters are either talking to themselves or they're talking to others. Now as Kagai, I have had the chance of practicing all the three. I have written some prose, I've written some poetry, and I've written some drama. Now, it is the drama that you wanted me to comment about, Romeo and Juliet in Kampala. So my friends and I wrote a play. We're a team of 6. Now we're a team of. We started out at 6, but now we are 5. There is a poet who is myself. There is a percussionist, a drummer.
Okay.
Now he's in Brazil, but he's Ugandan. There is a break dancer, Abraham Stecher. Yes. There is a big girl, and there is an actor called Biamukama. And we came together, people from different, even when we were doing art, people from different walks of life. Yes, that's the guy.
Yes.
Now imagine Abraham being Romeo, being part of the play. And this time, we've asked him, rather than fight, but to break dance.
Yes.
So we came together and we wrote a play called Romeo and Juliet in Kampala. We imagined Romeo and Juliet were living in Kampala, and the story was a Kampala story. So what happens? So we wrote it in 2019. We staged it here in Kampala, and then also staged it in Germany and we did it again this year at the Africolon Festival. We basically Ugandanized Shakespeare. We Ugandanized the story. Then I've also worked on other plays like Arrest the Poem, which we featured at the Baimba International Festival in 2018. We wrote another play called Tokubatota. Tokubatota was also featured at the Baimba International Festival in 2017. And then I wrote a one-man play called The Audience Must Say Amen. That one was adapted from my poetry book, the first one that I published called The Headline That Morning. Yes. And it also featured at the Kampala International Festival and also the Africolon. Somehow the Africolon Festival loves my works. Yes. To the writers out there, for me, what I would want to advise you is that when you are a writer, in as much as it is important to know your voice and to know your niche, it's also more important to also be flexible. Now, for me, as Kagai, my poems have been adapted into drama, where even when you are writing a poem, you don't remain rigid and say, for me, I only wrote my poems, they are supposed to be published, they cannot be performed. I think as an artist, you must allow your works to grow beyond you. Team up with visual artists and see what pictures they can draw out of your poems. Team up with fashionistas, see what kind of costumes they can develop. With songwriters, see what kind of songs they can develop. Because if you don't allow your literature to grow, then it cannot feed you. And for the times that we are living in like these, for these COVID times we are living in, it's very important that as artists we allow our works to grow into all the genres that they can grow into. So if you're a poet out there and you write your poems and you keep them in your books and then, put the book under the pillow, let me tell you, that is not a place where your poems should be. Your poems should be outside there with musicians. They should be with the graphic artists, They should be with fashion designers. They should be with theater directors, so that you can allow them to become products that are beyond just, poems on a page.
Wow. On that note, Peter Kagai, we want you to just give us an understanding of the three things that you have talked about in a poem.
In a poem.
Yes.
Right now.
Yes. On the spontaneous, if you're looking at, if I want to see the good example of prose, of a definition defining and distinguishing between the poem, the prose, and the drama.
Yes.
Yes. I know you match three of them in one go.
Yeah.
We're going to put you in a spotlight just so that somebody out there can actually understand exactly, practically what you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Here is Peter, and we want to hear from you. If you're a poet, if you're a drummer, if you're a writer, please. I think that Peter is giving you something very interesting. Let's dive into it right now.
Someone ran very fast and tell someone is in trouble. Someone ran very fast and tell someone is in trouble. Someone ran very fast and tell someone is in trouble. But before you go, Turn your ear towards the night sky and hear the sound of the raging storm. Hear the vociferous fury. The Sandra Brigade is seething as it comes together to march in a single force. Someone run very fast and announce the trouble. Someone run very fast and tell someone is in trouble. Sana fuziridde kalala nkoma omusana gwakira ku bikukuju enkoko za KFC twazirisiza nkuku nyina makovu. The rumor is ripe for harvest and the village has gathered to know. Someone ran very fast and announced the trouble.
Wow. Wow, thank you so much, Peter. Peter, I mean, we're learning quite a bit from you on the creative industry talk. I want to take you straight to my next question. What is your work schedule like when you are actually writing these plays? Because there's another thing, what frame of mind must you be in or must I be in when I'm writing? You've been writing for some time. You've been across the borders, across Europe, across Americas. What has been the experiences you pick from there, and what is your schedule like when you're writing? What kind of frame of mind should one be in, or are you always in when you're writing to put this beautiful work out there?
I think now I can recognize it. I can say there are two frames of mind that I'm always in. One, there is when I am writing work to be performed. And I am deliberate about, I envision the audience that I'm going to be with. Perhaps I even already have the contract and I'm told, you write this play or write this poem, it's supposed to be for this purpose. And I put myself to that target. And so that influences the decisions you make. For example, the books I'm going to buy to read. Because that is where, for me, the resources go in research. Who should I consult about this particular topic that I'm supposed to be writing about or performing about? So there is that frame of mind. But then there's also the frame of mind of the leisure writer who is with friends and then someone makes a joke and then it tickles your mind. And so where you are writing for yourself, you're not really writing to deliver. You're just writing a beautiful kind of work. So for me, there are two types of frames of mind. So for the very first one, I have a process. And for me, the process is, I take it like an assignment. So I'm going to write about a topic, I write the topic down. I ask myself about in what languages do I want it to be, I take note of that. What other ideas do I want to explore? What are the themes I want to explore in this particular topic? I write them down. Who has written about them? I go and buy those books. It could be an academic book, it could be a drama book, it could be a novel, it could be a poetry book. So then I start reading about that topic. Then in the process of reading about it, I am listening to what people are saying, I'm listening to the radio, I'm watching TV, I'm on social media, try to tap into the vibe of what are the people saying or thinking about this. Then, and that could sometimes take a period of 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks. Then after 2 weeks, of reading and researching and listening to people, then I start writing the poem. There is that deliberate process. Yeah. Then for the second stage where I'm writing for myself and I'm really writing about what inspires me, that I can do anytime, any day. In fact, sometimes I task myself to say, you know what, yes, I want to write 100 poems this month. And it doesn't matter whether they're going to be the best poems or not. For me, what I want is my deliverables at the end of the month. Yeah. At the end of 30 days, I must have written 3 poems every day. So you write a poem and I say, I'm going to write a poem when I wake up. I'm going to write a poem after I've had my lunch. I'm going to write a poem before I sleep. And I'm going to just be writing about the things that are happening in my day. So you sort of document your life, or you make a diary of your life through poems. Yeah. And these are things you're not going to share with anyone, things that you may not even like. So, but what I recognize most importantly is that the moment I decided to become a writer, I said this is my 9 to 5. The same way poems for 5 years. And you're wondering, where is your effort going? And you're still wondering why creatives are broke. We need to put ourselves to that question and ask ourselves, what are we doing to make sure that we produce more and more and more and more and more and more and more? Because it is in producing this a lot, that we can get the best out of our generation. Wow. If you know, even when we say these are, even when we say these are our talents, it should not be an excuse for us to avoid the hard work. You know, we keep saying that, you know, writing is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. You see, in fact, we write more. We find ourselves writing more when we are less inspired than when we are inspired. Right. If you're going to wait for inspiration to hit you to write, you're not a writer. You are a waiter. Writers write, like lawyers, and engineers, engine things, doctors. We writers write, whether you like it or not, whether you're unwell or not, whether you're broke or not, it's what you do. So the most important thing is to come up with a routine that's going to make sure that you keep producing. You keep, the Irish people say, here in Uganda we say you are as broke as a poet. Yes. The Irish say you are, in Uganda we say you're broke you're as poor as a church mouse. As church mouse, yes. The Irish say you're as poor as a poet. So, unless we want to keep in that vicious cycle of poverty, of writers or artists always complaining to some government to Yambe, if we want to break that cycle, we have to also break our cycle of indolence. Yes. We have to be prolific. We have to come up with routines that push us to keep producing more and more and more and more. Because that's what our economy needs.
Wow. Peter, hold it right there. We're going to go for a break. This is the Creative Industry Talk. My name is Eddie Okela, talking to Peter Kagai, who is a poet, and he is a writer, a lawyer. I think I love what he's saying, that if you're a writer, if you continue to sit and don't write and wait for inspirations to write, you are a waiter. That's the line for the day today. Stay right there. I'll be right back after this break.
An army of sheep led by a lion will beat an army of lions led by a sheep. That's a pay. Yeah. So let's be very honest about this thing and really understand that you need to understand where you lie and where you fall. So it's very important for us to understand that leadership has to be definitive. You can't be laissez-faire. It has to be definitive. You have to be strong, just like a lion. You know, when a lion meets an elephant or a buffalo or whatever, the buffalo and all these animals run away. And yet, by the way, they are stronger than the lion. They are heavier than the lion. They are more intelligent than the lion. They are taller than the lion. They run away. The lion, because of its attitude, it sees lunch. That is a leader.
Mr. Donald Trump, thank you very much for coming to the CEO Bench. And I want to ask you, so if you were elected the President of the Republic of Uganda today, what would be your first State of Nation address? Now, as you look into the camera and close the show.
I think my first State of the Nation address would first of all to... I think I'll just close it down.
I want to know from you, you know, and of course somebody who's watching this show either from here or a child watching in Myanmar or wherever they're watching, or in Congo where we're watched very much, would want to know, if I don't have the money and I have the passion and I have the zeal and I have the drive, but money is also needed to start it, how do I start? Where do I go? At least for you, your father gave you 300,000 to go and do a course. We don't know whether you spent the whole school fees or you only spent 1 month, took part of the school fees. What happened? How did you start, you know, your fashion? Did you get money from somewhere? How should one start if I want to start? And I was like, Kasozi.
I think we should try to be close to people who love what we do, basically. Yeah. Because even me, I managed to skip from that low level to another level because I had networks. Yes. Just me and Mia meeting Gloria Wavamuno changed my mind. Because I used to be Muyayona Street. So someone introduced me to Gloria Wavamuno, that I'm good, me I didn't know. Then, yeah, I lost my phone like over 2 months. Yes. So surprisingly, I got a text from Gloria. Customers have been looking for you over the last 3 months. Then my mind was like, the daughter of a tycoon is looking for me. I was even moving on Loom Street. Yes. So that changed my mind and started respecting myself a bit. Like, somehow I'm important. If someone important
is looking for me,
that's opened my mind and started to know that I need to be serious, have a skill, have a business, and also work more with my fashion, because by then I was still an amateur. So I never had money to go to buy books, and no designer could invite me, So I got to know basically all the knowledge through Aristotle, but I couldn't afford any book. I could go open and feed the mind. I move out, I make notes before I forget. Yes. Yeah.
We sit in the darkest corner of my vast mind. Rhymes, metaphors, and I. A friendship for 15 years and a million demons we share. Our feet shackled together. Today is just another day in prison. Another failed attempt to escape this compulsion. Compelling my resistance to this attraction of paper and pen. The urge to pick up this ink and stain this white is overwhelming. An agonizing ecstasy. My mind brimming and bursting at the seams with words and sentences. Drowning me, choking me with desire to write. So dark, so painful, so sweet, allowing me no peace until these words are allowed to flow from the gooey matter of my brain. Through my veins, out of my fingers, into this pen, through the ink with which I jot this down. In this moment, I realize I've become a prisoner of my talent. Yes, I say talent not with vanity, I say talent because in days such as this, it ceases to be a privilege. It turns into a jail cell I've tried to break from, but each time I attempt an escape, I fall right back harder. Now I realize this was never my decision to make or to change.
I am part of a separate entity of spirits who live by the pen. We teach, we correct, we rearrange, we give thoughts, opinions, and ideas wings with which to fly. And so, at a time like this, when these emotions are running high and screaming for release, and my entire being feels like was created for this, I know that this is not a gift. This is an obligation.
Welcome back from that break. This is the Creative Industry Talk. My name is Eddie Okela, talking to Mr. Peter Kagai, who is a poet, a writer, a theater writer, and a drama writer. That's the man in the studio today on Creative Industry Talk. Peter, welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
I want to just remind everyone out there that we're live on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube. Go there, share it far and wide. And I want to take a moment, Peter, to just read a couple of questions coming in from people in the diaspora here. I'll start with one person in Germany. Eddie Okela, thank you very much for bringing my OB to the show. That guy, I was with him in school, and the story he's talked about is true. He's always been a bookwormer. Not little wonder he's ended up as a writer.
OB, what's up? Good to hear from you.
Yes, and another one here says, I got another lady here called Susan, all the way in the US. I stayed up the moment I watched, and I read that Peter was coming onto the program. Thank you very much. Busoga, oh yeah!
Oh yeah!
And of course, I want to read a 2 or 3 more questions. There's somebody in London says, Eddie Okela, thank you very much for bringing Mr. Peter Kagai on the show. I'm a writer, and I wish we could amplify what Peter just said before we went for a break. We writers are always lazy. Those who say they are writers and cannot write constantly or cannot even write 3 or 4 pages daily are not writers. A writer worth their salt must always write at least 3 poems a day, and if you are writing a book, you must not go more than 2 years without writing a book. In a year, you should have written at least 2 books, even if you have not published. Wow.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
We got some writers out there who are coming. This one is coming from the British Council in Kampala. My name is Susan. I work with British Council in Kampala. Thank you very much. I know that guy. He's a great, talented guy. We've worked with him before. Shout out to Peter Ngovi. The words, man, if you're not a writer, if you're waiting for inspiration, you're a waiter. I don't want to be a waiter anymore. Well, Peter, I guess we got some love coming out from people there. Share your kisses and disses coming to us. We want to hear it. I've got a very strange Ugandan sending a message from Denmark, one of the universities there. I live and work in Denmark, and of course, I'm a Ugandan, but thank you very much, Peter, for coming to the show today. I love what you're saying. I think if we continue to amplify our voice to say, instead of waiting for government to yambe, creatives should always hold their power back. That's what Peter is saying. A creative mind is a mind that is bigger than a politician. Politicians are not creative. They use the creatives to move forward. What Peter is saying is true. So why then are we waiting for these guys to tell us what to do? Yet we should be telling them what to do. In our writing, you can write a poem, you can write a story to address your member of parliament or your LC or whoever you want, or the leader in your society, and they will listen to you because people will always relate to what you are saying, which they usually don't pay attention to. Thank you very much, Creative Industry Talk, for bringing such great, interesting minds to the show. Peter, over to you. I think you can see that a lot of people were reaching out, are talking about the same thing, yes, making this possible and allowing this opportunity to come to people. I want to take you to your next question as we hasten to the close of the show. Peter, what would you say is your interesting writing quirk?
What quirk?
Yes.
Oh, what do you mean quirk? if you don't mind me asking?
The word quack is Q-U-I-R-K.
Ah.
Yes, the one that you poets likes to use the most.
Quack.
Yes. What is your most
effort? The great work in writing is not in the writing itself.
Yeah.
It is in the polishing of the writing.
Okay.
Yeah. So I can even write a poem right now, off air. I can think of lines. But now the whole idea of now, you know, interrogating the thoughts, you know, developing the patterns you want it to have,
yes,
you know, thinking of, you know, the listening audience, all those 3 a.m.
Wow. And my next question is, how do books get published? This is a question that came in from somebody. A viewer wrote and say, can you ask him how do books of poets get published?
Let me just break down.
Yeah.
Okay, two ways. There is self-publishing, and then there is traditional publishing. Self-publishing is where the writer wants to do it themselves.
Yeah.
You want to be in control of the production process from the word get-go up to the end point. So from the word get-go, I mean from preparing the manuscript to printing the book at the end of it all. So, but the processes are simple. So you develop a manuscript. Now, according to Makerere University, and I'm giving a standard that at least is that can be publicly interrogated.
Yes.
According to Makerere University, your manuscript should have about 30 poems. At
most,
least,
yes.
At least 30 poems.
Yeah.
Then after that, you take the work to an editor. And then that editor is the person who helps you to polish it up to make sure that it is legible,
yeah,
and it is worthy being consumed by readers.
Yes.
Then after that, the book is the manuscript is forwarded to the designers, the layout designers and cover and designers and illustrators if you wanted to have some pictures. Yeah. Then you have to go to the Uganda Society Library to get the international standard book number. Yeah. It is only 30,000 shillings. It is that barcode that each book should have, so that it can be internationally sold in all public places and be catalogued in all libraries.
Yes, yeah.
Then after that, the book goes to printing. You have to find the appropriate printers for you. And of course, there are the proofreaders that you also have to hire. Then after the book has been printed, now the book has to be sold to the market. Yeah. So now thinking about now distributing the book, yeah, and making and giving it visibility, and that's it. Now that is a process that you can do as an individual. You can hire people to give you those services. Yeah. You can even have your own logo that you'd want to attach to your books. Yeah. There is that. The second process is where you find a publisher who does this work on a daily, and what you do is you sell them your manuscript, or you come up with a legal arrangement where you become co-owners, yes, of the copyright, yeah, in that work.
Wow. Peter, there's a book up there called The God Prayers.
Yes.
Can you take us through The God Prayers and actually give us one of the poem in that book?
So The God Prayers is a poetry collection written by Ita Patience Mbeki. Mbeki she's now a PhD student at Makerere Institute of Social Research.
Yeah.
But by the time we published it, she was a teacher at King's College, Budo. So what we were doing then was promoting literature among young people, by encouraging their teachers to also write.
Wow.
Because the idea was, if the students see their teachers publishing, then they would also want to they'll be more confident to also think of taking on publishing.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I don't have all the poems in that book,
yes,
offhand. Okay. But I can tell you about a poem there that I like.
Yes.
There is a poem in there that I like that is called of absentee wives and mothering housemaids, yes, where she is an author. Yeah. She is a woman who is talking about, why I like this poem, she's talking about how the modern day woman today has abandoned her domestic responsibilities to the house help.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And so and you see how house helps become wives and mothers in their homes. where they're replacing the role of actually the wife, because the wife has also become a man.
Yeah.
So I really liked that poem in that book.
And in the next book, which you have out there, I mean, if you just put that book up quickly,
yes.
Ungodly Hour. What do you mean by Ungodly Hour? And what is this? This is a Kitara Nation Poetry Series 4.
Yes, now, Ungodly Hour, this is a collection of poems by students from Mount St. Mary's College, Namagunga. Yeah. Like I said, this project that we're running of publishing these books was about promoting the culture of publishing. Yeah. There is literature taught in schools, but the culture of publishing is not there. Yes. So for us, we wanted to make books cool. We wanted to make publishing cool. So this is a book that we published from Mount St. Mary's College, Namagunga, and Ungodly Hour is one of the poems in there. Okay. And the poem itself, as you can see the cover, it is an hourglass, and there seems to be a lost soul that is drowning. Yes. And in that poem, these teenagers are talking about the things that they do at home, at night when their parents are asleep. You know, so the book talks about the drugs that they take, you know, the nightlife that they have that their parents do not know, and it's
because they are soul searching.
Yes, because they are soul searching. It's talking about this darkness that they grow up with, that their parents don't ever get to see, because when their parents see them, they are seeing them going to church and they think these are holy people. Yeah. Yet ultimately they have these demons that they are fighting, and they come out at night. They come out at that ungodly hours.
Wow. Yes. Let's talk about the poetry bungalow.
Now,
yes.
These are students of Seta High School, Mukono. And again, from the same idea, promote the culture of publishing among young people, give them the confidence to know that your words are valuable, that they are worthy of being published in a book and read and taught and loved by others. So Poetry Bungalow was that project that we did at Seta High. And for them now, what we found interesting about these poems is now Poetry Bungalow is this is a mixed school. Yeah. So the poems that we have in here talk about the artificial relationships that students develop in mixed schools, where, you know, the school tells you you should not mix with boys. It's a mixed school, but boys sit the other side, girls sit this side.
We went through it in a Seventh-day Adventist school. Very strict. No, there's always a line drawn in between here, boys. Yes. You cross, you get enough stroke. Continue.
Yes, I'm telling you. And this book actually interrogates that culture. Okay. So there are these poems that talk about how, you know, students live in plastic atmospheres where they are always competing with each other, comparing each other's flaws, and not willing to help each other grow. And yet they're living in an environment that is not allowing them to express themselves honestly.
Poetry bungalow.
That's the poetry bungalow.
Wow. Well, if you're joining us, as a Creative Industry Talk, we're talking to Mr. Peter Kagai Ngobi, who is a poet, a theater poet, a drummer, a lawyer, and is the man who is the publisher's world. He is the co-founder and editor-in-chief of the Kitara Nation, right? And you can see the work of Kitara Nation right out there, you know, showing far and wide. Peter, I want to ask a question coming from the viewer up here that says, thank you very much, Peter, for that answer on the publishing. That's really good. I wish we could have people talk more about this for young writers like some of us. I didn't even know that you have to go through this. It looks so very elaborate, but thank you. My question goes to Peter. Where do you get your information or ideas for your books, Peter?
Where do
the viewer is asking, where do you get your, you know, where do you get your information or ideas for? I guess she's saying, how do you develop your ideas? So I know we talked about it, but you could throw more light on it again.
Everything comes from research. Research and reading. And probably this is what I mean. The process of, when I write a poem, I'm not thinking about writing. Okay, the process of compiling a book is not the same process of compiling a poem.
Yes.
When I'm compiling a book, I am getting a collective of my thoughts I have gathered over time, and I want you to know me through my poems I have written. So that means that first thing that I'll have to consider is what are my interests? What are the things that speak to me when I'm writing? You know, because when you want people to know you, you want them to know you about the things that are personal to you.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing you consider. Second thing you consider is who is going to read? In what language do they speak? In what language do you write?
Yeah.
So I am a Musoga, but right now I mostly write in English language.
Yeah.
So when I'm putting my books together, I know that I am targeting English language readers. Where do I find them? How do I find them? How do I market to them?
Yeah.
So you think about, for me, most importantly, a book, even a poetry book,
Yeah.
it is a storybook. Any book you put together, why they call that book a page turner,
Yes.
is because whatever you put on that page
Yes.
is going to encourage that person to open
Yes.
the other page,
Yes.
to go deeper and
Yes.
deeper. So
Yes.
you have to be careful on what you put on the first page, the second page, the third, the
Yes.
fourth, because it must be connected from the first cover
to the next cover. Eddie, thank you very much. Just before you end the show, can you please ask Peter, when did he first publish his first book and how old were you?
No, I first published when I was, actually, I first published when I was 29.
Yeah.
My first book, the headline that morning.
Yes.
It was the first book myself published. But before that, my friends in the Lantern Meet had published. I'm a late
Daniel,
Nuamanya.
Yes, Daniel Mutembesa.
Yes, they are.
Yes,
wonderful.
yes.
That generation.
Yes, yes. I have been around that circle.
Yes, surprised. I'm surprised. So our
I've been
first
around
book
that
was in
since, yes.
2012.
Yeah.
And by that time, I was already out of campus.
Yes.
It was called Broken Voices of the Revolution.
Yes.
Now, the first book I worked on with my own hands was in 2013. It was for my students
Yes.
at Nabisunsa Girls School. They were in
Okay.
S4,
Yeah.
and we published for them a book.
Okay. And then I have a last question here, which is coming and saying that, what do you like to do when you are not writing, Peter?
When I'm not writing,
Yes.
what do I like to do? What do I like to do? Anyway,
We know you're already not practicing law when you're not writing.
No,
Yes,
I
yes.
am. When I'm not writing, I am reading. If I'm not reading, I am watching. I am blessed to be a publisher. So either I'm reading other people's works, or I am scouting for talent. So I'm going through social media looking for writers to publish. My work is, honestly speaking, I am a writer. I
Yes.
do 99% of my life. I'm either writing or reading.
Yes, and as we hasten to the close, before we take, the next steps of question about, being on stage and performing on stage, Peter, what does one, or rather, what was one of the most, surprising thing that you learned in creating your books, or creating books for others, or writing books for others? What's the surprising thing that you can talk about as a publisher, as a writer, as a poet? Yes,
those ones are many.
Remember, we're talking about defining and distinguishing.
I think
the poet, the prose, and the drama in it.
I think there are quite a number of surprising things.
Yes.
One is, don't ever expect your friends to support you.
Yes.
I think the biggest mistake you can ever make as a writer is to listen to people tell you, hey, you publish, we shall buy. Me, I'll buy 100 books.
Yes.
Me, I'll buy 10.
Yes.
And then you bring the book, and then that's when they remember,
Yeah.
I have bills to pay. I think for me, the biggest lesson I have learned in publishing is
Yes, yes.
ultimately,
Yeah.
if you want to make this a career, and you want it to be a success, avoid marketing to friends and family.
Okay.
Because you first and foremost will avoid disappointment, and that disappointment that brings disillusionment.
Yes, yes.
So when you're target strangers. We see how you go to a show and you don't expect to see only family and friends.
Yeah.
The people that turn up are the people that matter.
Yeah.
So for me, because all over time I've been producing books and wanting my friends, but your friends are your friends not because, your friends like you because of you.
Yeah.
Not because you are a writer. So when you try to force your passion on them, it might even distance them. I have siblings who have never read my books. And we meet every day, but reading is not their thing. So if I become emotional and I'm like, yo, Enoch, you're my kid bro, you're not even buying my book, then I'm actually killing off a market and giving off a wrong vibe.
Yeah.
But if I target the reader who is a stranger, but that person who loves reading, then that person is always even going to help me grow my business, because they're going to market me to other readers. Yeah. So I learned that very fast. Yes. Avoid the obvious. Avoid thinking that your friends will support you, your family will support. They love you as you, not because of you. In fact, they don't even understand your art things. So look for the people that art, and for me, by the way, this is very important, because most of us get frustrated when we don't see our friends supporting our hustle. It is not that they don't want to support us. These things are not for them. They also have their own passions. Yes. So I learned that. Secondly,
third, actually.
Money. I want to talk about money.
Yes, third is the money, yes.
Whether you like it or not, you will not escape the question of resources. Yeah. And you must have answers.
And you can't produce all these things without resources.
You must have, no, God is, look, unless you're going to wait for manna and quail to drop from heaven, but you must provide the answer to that. No one else is going to. Yeah. Don't think that there is someone with a basket of money waiting to just dish it to you. So you have to lobby. You have to know who to talk to in the industry. You have to know why it's important to start companies, why it's important to, to have a tax identification number, why it is important for you to know where to get the Uganda registration services, the Euro holograms. You need to know the business. You need to know the industry, so that way you can know who to go to when you need that particular kind of help. Without that, you'll keep on writing in the dark, and that's why your writing will stay.
Talking of that, Peter, we are coming to that part of the show that is really very interesting, and I love what you have said, that the three things I picked from you. Number one, you must love what you're doing. Number two, you must not force your friends to love what you're doing. Target those who you know are going to buy. Know your readers. Yes. And if you know that these are the readers, these readers, when they pick, they will pick and give it to another reader, and they will recommend, and that will be number three. You talk about money being key. You are not going to write these things for no money, and if you don't have the money, you cannot produce this. And if it is not sellable, then your friends won't buy it, however good you are. Because Sylvester told us here, look into your phone numbers. We had Sylvester Kabombo here last week, and he talks about if you look into your phone book and you don't find 50 people who can buy your ticket to come to the concert, then you are expecting the festival people to bring you in or the promoter to bring you in, yet you yourself can't have 100 people. Then you need to go and delete your phone book or stopped. If not, go back and start all over again and make sure you create that from there. That's a big lesson we're picking from there. It's all about resources, because the artists have struggled and have failed. Peter, as we close the show, let's talk about your first time on stage in Kampala. You have been working with Bayimba and doing some stuff with Bayimba and training with Bayimba. We talk about the schools. But let's talk about what opportunity did Bayimba actually present to you. And when we talk about Bayimba as the foundation, and you said the first time you performed there, what was the experience like? Take us through, and what have you been doing to try and leave your legacy in that space?
Bayimba changed my life. Literally, it changed my life. And Bayimba, I'd always known about Bayimba for a while, and Bayimba had known about me as well. I was part of a poetry group called the Lantern Meet of Poets, and so between 2010 and 2014, Bayimba used to feature us at the various festivals. In 2014, I went solo, and I started, and I was still at Nabisusa at the time, and wanted to do a poetry festival. And I reached out to Bayimba for help. And Bayimba told me, Peter, one day we shall help you. Maybe you're not in the position to do so. Then in 2016, I'd started Kitara Nation. And this is after I spoke directly to Faizo Chiwewa. I was young then. I was just from law school. I wanted to figure out this thing. And he tells me, Peter, you know what? If you want to figure this industry, we need structures. As poets, you need to create organization. You need to create structures which can also other organizations can interact with. So my friends and I started Kitara Nation. And through Kitara Nation, Baimba managed to link us to Africalia, and that's how we got our first grant that we used between 2017, actually up to 2020 to 2021, to promote poetry programs in schools. And then between that time, between 2016 and 2021 also, we had an opportunity to present, to make theatre poetry productions at the various Baimba Festival editions. So it was not even no longer just one call. Now it was contractual. Every year, Kitara Nation had to create a theatre poetry product to be showcased at the Baimba Festival.
And this is what we're seeing here on stage.
Yes, and those are the young poets that we worked with from schools, and now they are at the festival. In fact, in one of the slides, you will see my mother on stage with us.
Wow.
Because we also said, no, it's not enough for us to just be working together. Let us invite our parents to come through as well. So for me, the first thing that Baimba, as I said, for me, as an artist individually, it helped me recognize the importance of structures, the importance of the importance of coming together as with young poets, for us to be able to create companies that will help us deal with other organizations. Secondly, Baimba gave us the platform to showcase our various talents.
So was this also still at Baimba?
Yes, that's still at Baimba. The poet with a cape is a poet we found from Busoga College, Muiri. And you can see there is a guitarist just behind him playing. So for us, we believe in song poetry, so merging music and poetry. And here he was we were doing a theater. This is actually Arrest the Poem. We were doing it at Lunkulu Festival. Next to him is Luz the poet. At the time, he had dropped out of school and he had nothing to do. And so he felt he wanted to be a poet, and he didn't have to go through the challenges some of us had to go through. And he came to join us. Next to him is Don Wanyama. Don Wanyama was the head prefect at Busoga College, Muiri, that year. And him with the gentleman with the cape at the back. They are the people who took school poetry to Busoga, after this project. Next to them, you don't see the face, the guy with the kanga. He's called Nifrod Odot. For him, he was a poet from Namilyango College. So after this project, he also went back to Namilyango College and started a poetry club. So this is how the project has been running. And now that is the legend himself, Daniel Omara. Daniel Omara started, he was at St. Mary's College, Chisubi at that time. He started over 5 poetry schools before he went to Russia to study medicine and also start a poetry club at his university there.
Wow.
So these are the young people that we've been working with, and through Baimba, we have been able to give them a platform to, first and foremost, see that they are talented, and that secondly, their words can give them monetary value, because some of them are now doing this as a career.
Wow. When you talk about this, what would be your best advice to a young poet out there as we close the show? What kind of platform do they look for? Where do we find you? How does one interact with you? And how do we connect with you at Kitara? What's the best advice you can give us today, that when we go and think through it with this COVID-19 pandemic situation and endemic situation that we're in, and the confusion surrounding COVID-19, the uncertainty that lies ahead of us, how does an artist, a poet, stand out tomorrow to say, yes, I can continue to move with this hope, and it is possible? And how do I get my work to the hands of people who may not know I exist? Like the same way you got to Faizo, how would we get there on Baimba?
Thank you. For me, the advice I would give to any young poet out there is the advice that I wish somebody gave me. In fact, someone gave me and I rejected it. Learn your craft. Professionalize early. Learn how to professionalize early. It doesn't matter whether you're 10 or 20 or 30 or 40. Learn how to be a professional writer. How do professionals behave? Who do they know? Secondly, invest in knowing the people in your industry. You might be shy. Some of us choose to write because we are shy. We don't know how to express ourselves. And now here I am telling you, go out there and be confident. Be deliberate about growing your reputation. and growing your profile as a writer. And that includes talking to people or reaching out to people or researching about people who will help you improve on your profile. But even that is something that you don't just wake up one day and know how to do. Go to the University of YouTube. Learn. Teach, self-educate yourself about marketing, about creative writing. Know the best-selling books out there right now. Know the trends. Know your industry. Know the people. Know the people, because knowledge is the only resource that you have right now that will make you that dream. Every time you put that pillow down and you imagine yourself being as even bigger than Shakespeare or being bigger than Okot Pabitek, that thing that's going to push you is in the ability to be able to let people see your talent, to be able to argue and demonstrate your talent to everyone else. And it won't come from you just writing and putting your poems back in your book and then hiding them in your pillow. You have to be at the forefront of your career.
Finally, Peter, 2021 is coming to a close. We're going into a new year. You've been collaborating with Bayimba Foundation. What plans do we have, in the days ahead, if any, do you want to share with us? I see a message here flashing from the messenger. Too many messages, over 500 on messenger. I can't read all the messages on messenger, but thank you very much, everybody. But this one saying that, how do I get into the program with Bayimba that Peter is talking about? He's a poet, he's a drummer himself. He says he's a drummer artist. I don't know what that means. He's an actor. But want to know, how do they get, and is there any program for them in days ahead? Could you share some more light as we close?
All right. If you're interested in publishing poetry, for example, you can reach us. You can reach out to Kitara Nation. We have a website, our social media spaces. It's all Kitara Nation. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Our email is kitaranation.uganda@gmail.com. Reach out. Let's start a conversation. Yeah. Now, if you're interested in learning how to perform and how to write and how to perform, it's the same way. You can reach us. You can reach out to us on our various media platforms, and we shall be able to help you. Now, for those of you who have programs or projects that you want to run and you want to reach out to Bayimba, the beauty about the social media these days is that it has made it easier. To access some people where previously, you had to write a letter or you had to write an email. These days, just a messenger message is enough to get you, through that door. Yes, and now for those ones who would want to know more about writing and maybe marketing books, publishing, come and we talk. Reach out to us. We have a number of programs that we are running for poets. We have Verse in Vac. We have the Kitara Nation Poets Poetry Program that we also run, where we train ourselves and we train young people in theater poetry. Next year, if all goes well, we also
this is next year, 2022.
Yeah, 2022.
Yeah.
We are bringing back the culture of poetry recitals. If the government allows us to have public performances again. So we are coming up with a weekly poetry show in Kampala, and anyone, as long as you love performing poetry, you can come up with your poem and perform, and again, if you have a manuscript and you want to publish, we are your guys. Just come and we talk.
Thank you very much, Peter, for coming to the show today. And first, I want to put a topic up there, and just to remind everyone, that we've been talking about defining and distinguishing poetry, prose, and drama in Uganda and across borders. When we say in Uganda and across border, locally here in Uganda, within the boundaries of Uganda, is it distinguished, defined? Is poetry clear? Do we see the prose when people perform? Do we understand what it means? That's what Peter has been sharing on the show today. And then, of course, we have been talking to Peter Kagai, who is the co-founder of Kitara Nation. Kitara Nation is one of the publishing house, and Peter himself is the publisher. He's a writer, he's a poet, he's a drummer, he's a theater writer. So if you have projects for him, please reach out to him. And we'd like to say thank you very much to everyone. We would like to say, Peter, that it's been really great, you know, having you on the program today. And I want you to take this moment and close the show with a beautiful poem from Peter that closes. A piece from the Kitara Nation.
Wow. Freedom. Freedom is the music of voices stretched in our throats, reaching out to our hearts since our voices were once ghosts. Freedom is the music of voices remembering the ones we have lost in fright and in fear. Freedom is knowing in the morning you can open your heart's window and let the sun in. Freedom is knowing why a caged bird sings. Freedom. Freedom. That's me.
Thank you so much. We've come to the end of the show today. We want to say, beautiful day. Stay in freedom. And please, freedom is opening up your heart very hard in the morning and let the sun in. Until then, Creative Industry Talk has come to an end. Edio Killer and Peter Kagai Ngobi signing out.
And wonders and circumstances, suspense pains, harvest with death and he's with scandal. Oh, silence, silence, and still shot, rattle. Leave the broom in the corner of the room. And when the shadow is behind your heels and the moon is full, go to the well and you will find a black stone. Pick it up. Pick it up. Move. And don't look back. Don't look back. Don't look back.
What can the men do, okay, to promote women's sports or basketball for that matter?
Yes, so today morning, someone told me, he made research, actually my brother, that these days the NBA actually facilitates the WNBA games to see that they're also somewhere. How about the NBL men starts doing something, not totally like investing in and all that, but it can be with the support system. It can be one very good thing, seeing that creating more opportunities for these ladies, putting up different games like, so as like women can be like seen or showing that these guys also like care. It can start with support, and then with time they can also like recommend whoever facilitates them to like partially have his thoughts somewhere on the women's team, so that like they can all go about like together in solidarity. I think that can work. I don't know, I don't think it's something big. It can start with support and then financially with time.